say? We're just having fun, man. It's so bittersweet, man. This game is so fun. Now, I used to be very hyped. I made so many funny videos, I think, on YouTube on this game. But, a good friend of mine today, look at this. Your boy's going to end the stream like this, okay? Looking out at fake Vegas of the future. You know, my homeboy called me, and this is how the conversation goes. He says, hey, you need to stop streaming. And I told him, I think I said this on my last game, but I'll say it again, man. Like I said, I don't know if new people are coming into my stream or watching my videos later. So I'm going to keep on streaming until the good Lord upstairs, my God, you don't have to believe in what I believe in. He tells me to stop. Now, one thing is, I've spent about $4,000 on this game now. I have no impulse control. I am a man that believes in Jesus, and Jesus has healed my arm. He has shown me demons come out of people. He has shown me gangbangers turn their lives around. He's even shown me addicts like become sober magically. Like I've seen these things in my life, and the homeboy told me you need to stop streaming, and I told him, hey, like this is the first time I found passion in anything in my life. Like my business, my motel business, that's for survival for me and my wife. And for 2 years, it's been suffering, not doing good. But I'm telling you, I was praying just 6 days ago, and God told me, hey man, I'm gonna free you from addiction. And right now, I'm on medication from the doctor, and that doesn't mean that it's not drugs. Oh, it's drugs, baby. Suboxone is a terrible demonic thing, man. Now, it helps people get off fentanyl and stuff, but it's not good. I'm telling you, the withdrawals last for months, and it's painful. But regardless, your homeboy said to stop streaming, and I told him, nah. How do you not know that someone might watch one of my videos and it might help them in their life? Now, I might not represent myself as the best of what a Christian can be, but I cuss sometimes, I joke, I have anger issues, but I'm trying. I'm trying to be a better person, especially now I'm 34, man. I'm trying to be a better husband, and especially to the young generation, dude. I used to talk shit about Gen Z and Gen Alpha, said they're fucking effed up and there's nothing good can come out of them. But you know what? I changed my tune, man. I've met so many good young people. They just need guidance. And when I was their age, 18, I was facing a year up to jail, and I went to church. I remember I told this on another stream, but I was gonna go to jail for a year, and then I was scared, and I was gonna move to Mexico, man. I was thinking, man, I'm gonna run away to Mexico, homeboy. And you know how stupid that is at my age? Dude, I'm 18 years old. What am I gonna do in Mexico? I speak no Spanish, but I was too scared to go to jail for a year. Now, mind you, I've been to jail 9 times, but this was a very big case. I had a bunch of Xanax on me. It's medication. It didn't belong to me. And Texas is very strict on drugs. Um, and I was scared, man. So I started, but in Texas, you grow up in church. But I didn't believe in no God, man. So what I did was I took my big homie who came from New York. He wasn't a gangbanger, but he was a big thug himself, scary looking dude. And we went to church. I said, hey, big homie, let's go to church with me. Like, I need your help. Like, I'm about to face jail time. I'm scared. So he came to church with me. And that big homie shot his leg once on Molly, and he has a big scar down his leg. And so I went to church, and I see this guy. And for what, 17 years of me going to church, all I've seen is pastors at Korean churches talking and telling me, don't do drugs, don't steal, don't cuss, don't do this. But you know what? They look like squares. They look like they've never done, not even dabbled in smoking weed or cigarettes in their life, man. These are the people that's telling me not to do something. Don't tell me not to do something if you've never been where I've been. That's what my mentality was back then. Until I met this guy at this church. And this guy, it was not a pastor. He was just telling his story. And he said he used to be a big time gangbanger. He was Korean, and his name was John. And he said he used to guard whorehouses, and he used to semi trucks worth of weapons and drugs he used to move. And he got trained. So there was two places for him to get trained. One was in Korea, my country, and one was in California. He got trained in California. Like Korean gangs are like mafioso styles. So he got trained in California, came back to Texas, and started doing that. And then something I forgot now because it's been a decade more, but he had his son, and God came to him. And then the man changed his whole life. that's the first time I heard that someone could change their life around. And I don't know what it was, but when I heard that and I was sitting there listening to this guy talk about Jesus changing his life, I was like, dude, if Jesus can do it for him, oh, he most definitely can do it for me. So right after the service was over, I ran up to him with my big homie, and my big homie, and we're Asian, right? And Koreans, we bow, okay? I'm showing you with my hand. We bow like this, okay? But if you bow like this, 90 degrees, oh, that's like saying, hey, huge respect. That's like mafioso respect, all right? Now, my big homie, I didn't know who this guy was, but my big homie did. So he goes all the way 90 degrees bow, and that's when I'm like, oh, shoot. This guy is somebody big. So I bow again, I think. And I told him, dude, your testimony really blessed me. Please, can you just tell me what to do? I'm facing a year to jail. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. And he told me, you know what? Here's my number. I'm going to help you. And I forgot how long it was, but man, he stayed in my life for more than a couple years, and he discipled me. Dude, this man was crazy. He fasted for 40 days without food. Now, he drank water, but he fasted for 40 days. And I remember he taught me how to read the Bible. Before that, I never really cared about Bible. I didn't care about nothing. I started reading the Bible, and then when that was happening, God kept sending me different signals, supernatural things. Now, as I'm growing and finding out about God, while this court case is going on, I found out, oh, I don't have to go to jail for a year if I go into rehab. So I go to rehab, right? And he teaches, and John, while I'm in rehab, I found out that I stay in rehab for a little while, and I find out that my parents, they have to pay. I have no money, right? I'm a sucker, a young kid, no job, and I'm in downtown Dallas where gangbangers and drug addicts all are, and I'm scared. I'm a little boy at the time, still in my mind. I'm with like 40, 50-year-old drug addicts sleeping on the concrete floor, and we have to wake up at 6 in the morning and use the shower only 2 to 5 minutes. I think it's 2 minutes literally, like military style, because they have class in there. And I couldn't find a job, and I told my dad, can you please put money, because if you don't pay for this rehab, I am going to jail. And I cried, and I told him, please help me. And he said, no, son, I can't help you. And I think that was the best thing my parents ever did for me, because before that, they had to bail me out of jail multiple times, and so did my homies. And then my mom, who always had a soft heart for me, always would bail me out and tell my dad, no, save our son, save our son. She finally said, you know what? My dad told me, your mom. Now, it's crazy because my dad's the one that called me, and my dad said, your mom ripped up all your baby pictures and she burned them. Now, I don't know till this day if she actually did that. I think she did. But and she said, your mom said she's going to forget about you and she's never going to think of you again. You're not her son no more. And I was like, what the fuck? Oh, my life is over. I lost my mom. And this is while I'm trying to find God. And I remember, so I have no money. I'm about to get kicked out of rehab. And my mentor, John, the gangbanger, I forgot where he went in that time. He was visiting me a little bit in rehab, but that time he couldn't help me. And I remember I was outside the rehab panicking. And then this brother I met in there, his name was Evan Mongaris, man. And he was a white dude, Jewish, but he had a drug problem too. And he told me, and he started talking to me about God, because I guess he saw me reading the Bible every morning, because supposedly John told me that Jesus can help me in my situation. So he saw me. So this white guy, Evan, from the rehab, comes to me and says, hey, I seen you, Chocopie. You've been reading the Bible. And I'm going to tell you this. Jesus is at the door, and he's waiting for you to open it so he can come in. But you got to be the one to open it and let him come in. And I remember that conversation. And then the next door, right next to the rehab, was a Popeye's chicken. And I remember I had no food to buy, no food, and I was starving. And he bought me some chicken thighs and biscuits. And I remember I was eating that outside on the concrete, crying as I'm eating, starving, crying. And then the guy Evan, he told me, hey, just a block down from here, there is good Christian people that I used to stay with, and they're court mandated too, so you're good, and they'll let you live there for free. And I was like, what are you talking about for free? Nothing in this life is for free. And I was like, no. And he said, no, they're good Christian people. All they ask is you have to obey their rules. So I went over there, because I was desperate, right? My parents I'm gonna be out on the streets, or I'm gonna be evading the police and waiting to go to jail for a year. So I walk over there, and the first time I go to this house, it was called the Father's House, man, in Dallas, Texas. And it was owned by Robert and Debbie, man. That was their name. And they became like parents to me. And when I walked into their house, it was a 2-story house with another outside house where they feed the homeless on Wednesdays. And dang it, the first time I went in there, I saw 2 people, Jim and I forgot the other brother's name, but they were related. Their dad got murdered up in Seattle. They were orphans. Isn't that crazy? And I live in Seattle. Crazy how life works, man. But they were fighting. They got into an argument and they started literally fighting. So this is me. This guy telling me about Jesus, that this place is about a Christian place, and I'm going over here, and then I see these 2, and they're 6 foot tall, and they're fighting each other, and they smash each other into a window inside the house and break the window. That's my first introduction to this house. And then I'm like, damn, I'm kind of scared, to be honest. But then, they calm down, and I meet Debbie and Robert, and they tell me the deal. They say, here's the deal, Choco Pie. The deal is this. You are allowed to stay here. We will feed you 3 times a day. We'll give you the food. You'll have your own bunk bed upstairs. Before that, I was sleeping on the concrete, mind you, with grown men. And they said you can stay here with us. You don't have to pay us any money, but you will work with me. The Robert, he was a carpenter. Isn't that funny? Just like Jesus, he was like a general contractor, a carpenter, and he would just do odd jobs around. And he says, all you have to do is when I go to work, you come and work with me. Before that, let me tell you, I've never worked a day in my life like a real man's job. Never. And then the next thing is this: you will wake up until you get to like 3 or 4 months. He said you'll wake up every morning and make sandwiches, because every morning homeless people would come to that house and ask for food. So we wouldn't have to make peanut butter jelly sandwiches with some snacks and make it for them in the morning and give it to the people, and then eventually pray for them. And they're telling me all this, and of course, dude, I got nowhere to go. I said, hell yes. Yes, I want to do that. Shoot, I don't have to pay any money. I'm not going to jail. Yeah, anything's better than jail. I've been to jail before. I hated it. So I said yes. And so became my adventure with God there, man. And I got kicked out of there once for 3 days with the same guy, Evan, that brought me there. He got back into that house too. But then I guess we're addicts, right? So we messed up on drugs again, and they had to kick us out. They kicked us out for, I think, a day or so. And then I came back to them, and I apologized. And they said, okay, we'll let you back in. And they gave me a second shot. And I think another Korean homeboy of mine came, and another Korean person came that I didn't even know. And I'm telling you, this is white people only. And then random, like my best friend that was Korean came into that house. And then also another Korean that I didn't know also came into that house, which is weird. They've never had Koreans, which I just think is a God moment. But through that, and then while all this is happening, this is the first time in my life I remember this phone call. I'm starting to believe in this Jesus. And I remember my dad calls me after like 3 or 4 months. It could be less. When I was in there, he found out that I'm in this place, and I told him, hey, I'm not in jail. These people took me in. And my dad tells me, first time in my life, in my grown-up life, I forgot if I'm 18 or 19, but he says, son, I love you. My dad is not one before that to ever say that to me. And I was like, at first, I heard it, and he said, what the hell did he say? I love you. That's fucking weird. And I remember I just hung up the phone, and I was feeling real weird about it. 18 years of my life, my dad beating me with golf clubs, and I thought he hated my guts. Every time I would eat food, I was fat back then. He said, go eat. All you do is eat shit and sleep. You should just go kill yourself. Say, I'm so embarrassed you're my son. He says this in Asian, of course, but that's how I grew up. And my grandpa, same way. Treated me the same way, saying that kind of shit to me. But my dad said that to me, and I was surprised. And then I'm like, wow, what's God doing in my life? This God must be real. And then here comes the supernatural stuff. Now, I know I'm making this into a Christian thing, and it is. Because like I said, I'm going to return this tomorrow. I'm going to keep my word. Something happened. Oh, and another, dude, I'm telling you, just weird miracle story. At that previous rehab I was at, there was a nice older man there. And I forgot his name, but he was very nice to me. And then in this now, when I went to this Christian place, the Father's House, they have a church they go to. I think it was like 8 months later, I was in that place, That old man from that rehab came to that, looked inside from the outside, inside the church. And I remember I saw him and I was like, oh my gosh, I know this man. And I even got to pray for my thing. I don't know. That's one little miracle. Now this is the real miracle that happened. That like really just shifted my. Now at this time I started believing in Jesus, but this is when the supernatural stuff happened. I think I started working out for the first time in my life. This is when I started losing weight. I worked out for the first time in my life. I hurt my shoulders. I couldn't move it. It hurt. And at that church, that the father's house, Robert and Debbie, they invite him. We have to go to their church because we live in their house. So we're going to their church, and their pastor, I think, is John. His name is John too. Isn't this weird? John's in my life has always been special, but the pastor's name is John, and he says, now mind you, before that I've been going to Presbyterian, Baptist, all these churches. They don't believe in supernatural stuff. Only one church I remember my mom speaking in tongues, and that's it. But then this white church is non-denominational. And this pastor John, he says, hey, if anyone needs any healing, come up and I'll pray for you. And I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? And now I've read the Bible, right? And God does. Jesus heals people. So I'm like, well, you know what? Let's see if this shit is real. That's my mindset. Arrogant. I go up there. I say, hey, my shoulder's damaged and I can't move it. So I put out my hand like this, and he grabs my hand and he starts praying. And I swear to you, I feel warmth coming from his hand into my hand all the way up until it hits my shoulder. And then I was like, man, what the heck was that? And after he got done praying for me, I was like, dude, that was weird. And I go like this with my arms. Pain is completely gone. First miracle that I think I've ever experienced supernaturally. And what's funny is months later, I get to go back to my mom. She forgiven me a little bit, but still doesn't like me. But I go back to my mom's church and I talk to the youth pastor there. His name was Chester. And I told him, hey, Chester, because I used to do dope, do heroin, and go to that church. And everyone told their kids, don't stay away from Chocopie. He's a bad influence on your kids. And I went to the youth pastor and I said, hey, I believe in this Jesus guy you've been telling me about, bro. I can't believe it. It's real. Dude, my arm got healed. And you know what he said to me? Which is even funnier. He says, no, that's doctrine of devils. Like, that's not Jesus. And I remember I was so prideful and arrogant because I knew that was God. I was like, man, this guy went to seminary school, wasted all this money to become a pastor, and he's never even seen a supernatural miracle? Like, I thought in my mind, in my teenage years, I thought, oh, this guy's a loser. Or God must not like him enough. That was my mindset back then. Now I know as I got older that, dude, people experience Jesus in different ways. Some people might never see a miracle in their life, but they believe in him. In the Bible, it says those that don't have to see miracles and believe, God blesses them even more. You know, but me, I had to see things. And after that happened, I was the first Christian in my group of friends, my group of thugs, drug addicts, and gangbangers. I was the first one to turn Christian. And I remember I was still going out drinking. While I'm in this rehab, I got to get a little bit loose and I got to get out, you know. And I remember I've been hanging out with my old school friends. You know, you should never hang out with your friends when you're trying to change your life, especially drug addict friends. They'll pull you right back in. But I'd be drinking with them. And every time I drink, now I can't shut my mouth about Jesus. I'd be like, dude, Jesus is real. I'm telling you, friends. And we're drinking. And they're like, shut the hell up, Chocopie. Dude, you literally was doing dope and smack just a week ago. Don't talk to us about Jesus. And one by one, each one of them had supernatural things happen to them. Now, I've mentioned this in my other streams, but I'll tell it because I'm preaching right here I'm not preaching, I'm giving my testimony. One of them was Daniel and Steve. The one that came to me when I was facing a year up to jail to meet John, the first guy that taught me the Bible. Daniel and me. At that time, John, my mentor, he said, hey, would you like to speak to some youth kids? I think I turned 20 at the time. And he said, tell them about your testimony. And even then, I was a drug addict. So I took some Xanax to feel anxiety relief. And I gave them, I don't even know what I said because I was on drugs. But I just said some things that I felt like God told me to say and on drugs, right? Nobody else knew. And Daniel, who shot himself in the leg and has a huge scar this big on his leg because he was on Molly and his gun popped off. His leg hurts when it's raining. So John goes over to Danny and he prays for him. And he touches his leg and the pain disappears. And Daniel was so tripped out. He came over to me afterwards and he said, yo, John Young, And Hyung means older brother. He says, hey, he just prayed for my leg and my leg is healed. Or I don't feel pain. It wasn't never healed. He just said the pain disappeared. And he was so shocked. And I remember, but it didn't stop us. So I go home, and then Daniel tells me the next day, he tells me this crazy story. He has a brother named Steve, a younger brother. Daniel goes back home, and Daniel, because even though that Jesus moment happened, he's still a drug addict, right? And he just took some Xanax with me. He goes and does crack or meth or whatever it is he does. I think it was meth. I don't know for sure, but he does it upstairs, and his younger brother Steve also does it. But before they smoke the drugs, Daniel just told what happened to him at church to Steve, his younger brother. And Steve is downstairs smoking crack after hearing Daniel and me preaching at a church. Giving my testimony at church, and Daniel's upstairs in their parents' apartment smoking crack or whatever. And then once he smoked it, he started getting paranoid and scared. So he got on his knees, and I think he told me it was because we were just at church. So I don't know what happened, but he got so terrified, he got on his knees and he started praying. He said, God, please let me be sober. I'm so scared of what's happening to me right now. And boom, in an instant, he was sober. Supernatural crap happening. And then he was so shocked that he was sober that he said he ran to his door to go tell his younger brother what just happened. Mind you, his younger brother's downstairs smoking the same dope. And this is not marijuana, people. All right? This is hardcore drugs. Now, right when Daniel opens the door, there is his younger brother Steve right in front of him. And before Daniel could tell what happened with him and God, Steve, his younger brother, says, hey, big bro, I was smoking downstairs and you told me about this God nonsense, and I started getting scared. And I started praying that God makes me sober, and I'm sober right now. And that's what happened. Another supernatural occurrence. And then, of course, these things keep going along and along. And then I have another friend named Justin, never believed in God, became a Christian because my mentor John he started discipling all of us kids at that time, man, knuckleheads, man. And I remember Justin was praising and worshiping. Like, this is after he met God too. And then I see him flop over like a fish, and he had a vision. He had a vision of Jesus with a flaming sword, sticking that sword into his mouth. I know it sounds weird, but that's what he told me. And I remember later, he also told us this. He had a vision of God showing him that he was a firefighter, that he went into a burning building and he was a firefighter. And you know what's crazy is years later, he doesn't believe in Jesus no more. But I remember him telling all of our friends that. And then he became a firefighter years later. And I asked him, hey, do you remember what you told us? That you told us that you had a vision that God showed you that you were going to be a firefighter. And he says, no, I've never said that. It came out of his own mouth and he forgot. And one of our other friends, I'll end with this one. His name was JC. He beat me up one time pretty bad, but I don't know why. I still have a lot of love for him. And I'll tell you why at the end. But JC was the scariest person in our group of friends. I didn't know this. One time he was going to come stab me, and I called my friend Justin, the one that flopped over like a fish and had a vision from God. I called his dad because his dad's kind of gangster too, and I told him come protect me because JC was going to come and stab me because I was late for something. You know, he was hanging out with MS-13 and stuff. And he got teardrops, you know, full-time gangbanger, right? But I remember Justin is sitting in my car, my mom's car, in shotgun, and JC, the big OG, is in the back. And I remember him asking us, hey, you guys are Christian, right? And we said, yeah. And it's like, well, so if you're Christian, you got to forgive us. Forgive me for everything right now. Mind you, I didn't know the Bible well at the time. The only person that can forgive you is Jesus, okay? Man cannot forgive you. Jesus can. Man can forgive. I can forgive you if you hurt me. But I'm talking about true forgiveness. Only Jesus can give you. Now, like I said, we didn't know that back then. JC says, so whatever I've done, you can forgive me, right? And I said, yeah, whatever it is. And I was just going to think he was going to tell me, hey, you fought someone and whatever. And he told us this. He said, you know, I murdered 2 people. And I remember I couldn't look behind me because I was terrified. And I looked sidely to Justin, and I could see his eyes twitching too, looking at me like, dude, what the hell do we say? And then automatically, out of fear, I say, oh, of course we forgive you. You're forgiven, brother. In Jesus' name. And I just remember, because you remember, this guy was going to stab me once. And then to find out that I've never before that met a murderer in my life. And apparently he murdered two people, and he did disgusting things, demonic things, even to women. I'm not going to get into it too much, but he told me one time he grabbed a hammer and into a woman. He kind of, I don't know, I into her private area repeatedly. This is the kind of, I just want to explain to you what kind of man this was, okay? An evil man. But also, there's another side of him that wanted to keep me. I was the goofball of the group, always making people laugh. He wanted to keep me around. And I guess because he had so much darkness, he just wanted some kind of light and goofiness. But that man became Christian. And he actually got baptized in a bathtub. Of all things, we went to this place called IHOP, International House of Prayer. All of us are from Texas. All this little thug boys. We gathered in our car and we drove all the way to Kansas City, where they have this, not the House of Pancakes, buddy. It's the International House of Prayer, and they, I guess for decades now, they've been praying for 24 hours ceasing. They have like work schedules of people going in there to pray for people. And we went over there and he got baptized there. Now, life is not a fairy tale, right? Last time I checked up on him, he went back to doing meth and stuff like that. I don't know if he went back to doing gaming. I lost complete contact with him. But all that to say, man, is my journey with God has been crazy, man. And now, dude, even this year of rehab, losing my business almost, I saw a demon come out of someone in rehab, man. I just have so much stories. Dude, I could go for hours if I told you everything I've seen in my life and done. But all this to say and end with this, man. Like I said, I'm not here to convince you that there is a God up there. If you don't believe, if you stuck it out to hear my BS story, this is not a BS. I'm just being honest with you. I didn't inflate nothing. It's just straight what it is, okay? My life, all right? You don't have to believe in what I do. And plus, you can't. Because honestly, unless I was facing that jail time and needed God desperately, I would not have listened or gave two shits about what that John guy said or anybody said, man. It's just I was in such a bad place in my life, and then I was finally humble enough to ask if there really is a God up there. And then I found out there really is. And man, it changed me. I made so many bad mistakes even after meeting God and claiming I'm a Christian. But it's a journey, man. This walk with Jesus, it's a journey, and it doesn't end until you die. Paul says it's a marathon, and you need to make it to the race until it's finished. You know, and like I said, this is just my story. No matter how much I speak to anybody and tell my stories, even if you believe my stories, you won't be a Christian or you won't believe in Jesus. I know because I remember what it took for me. I just only say this hoping that if any of you guys, whoever on the internet, might hear this story one day, that this story, you might be in the place where I was, facing something horrible and you're scared, and God will show up for you like he did for me. And you'll be open enough and humble enough to hear him. You know? Anyways, that's all from me. I'm going to give this headset away tomorrow. It's time, man. I promised God I was going to do it beforehand. I wish I kept my word on it before I lost so much more money. But here we go. Later, Vegas Infinite. This is the last time you're going to get my money, baby. Anyways, blessings to anybody that hears this. And if anybody wants me to pray for them, please, on the YouTube, I'm going to put this on YouTube. Please put it in the comments. I promise you, I'll look at it and I'll pray for you. So, God bless y'all. And for those of you that don't believe in God, God bless y'all anyway, man. Have a blessed night. Adios, baby.